record. And I'll just get started, and I'll hang a little bit extra to answer whatever questions come forward for all of you. If you don't mind dropping into the chat where you're coming from, I always like to know that. That's my husband coughing in the background. If you hear that, apologies. Oh, good. Ashley's getting in. Yay. Okay. So yeah, if you want to just say hello in the chat. I am coming from Colorado, but I'm originally from the Midwest and been here for a few years. So yeah, there's a lot of people that sign up for this that I have not met yet. So I'm really excited to connect with all of you today. And yeah, just jazzed to be hosting these just hour-long, semi-regular, so I'm thinking monthly brand chats. I guess I'm calling them brand night, where you can bring in what you're working on. So you literally could bring in like a Canva file or, show me some stuff, and yeah, we'll just jam out together. And my goal is really to just support you, as best as possible here. So since I don't know many of you, I'll give you a little bit about my background. Emily, Michigan. And Emily and I were lucky enough to connect earlier today. So I'm glad to have a couple of moments with you today, Emily. So yeah, I'll just give you a quick just background on who I am and what I do. I'm Beth Porter. I'm the face behind my brand, Earth and Ether. I want to really spend most of the time here helping out, but my short background is that I do two things. I am a healer, a designer that turned healer. And I really thought that I was done with design. And in the past year and a half, it's really just been, branding has been knocking on my door. So I spend time working with conscious entrepreneurs in the healing realm, as well as supporting them through brand, so that you can really show up, authentically in both your life and in branding. So my background includes branding, obviously, as well as marketing, fashion design, which is where I started in the design space, trend research and strategy, product development for several companies. So I've worked for, from Abercrombie and Fitch to Target to Bounty paper towels and Pampers diapers, and even I worked on organic vitamin supplements by the Synergy company. So kind of all over the board. I've played a lot of roles and held a lot of, just spent 16 years in the industry. So for national and global brands, and now bringing this to you. So my through line really between the branding and healing space is just that liberation of authenticity. And I really think that just as we are individuals and we all have our own authentic way of showing up in the world, that probably changes as we grow and evolve and change over time. I believe that our brands or our businesses also carry that kind of energy. And to be able to attract the kind of clients that are correct for you, or consumers, or whatever kind of business that you're in, I think it's really important that we are in alignment with that. I will also just say this caveat that you don't need branding to have, you don't need good branding to have a good business or a successful business. But it does help to really, I see it as a tool to teach and help your client base or your ideal consumer really understand what you're about from an energetic perspective. It also helps to build trust, as you are, it's just one piece of the puzzle, I guess, around showing up consistently, having a consistent look, tone, and feel that people know they can rely on. It just sort of subconsciously lets people know that you are somebody that they can count on, basically, that you'll be here for a while in some capacity. So it also is just a tool to really reinforce ideas that you have and what you're all about. So I'm sure you all already know that, but I just wanted to share that to have a successful business, you for sure don't have to have incredible branding. But if you're here, you probably are interested in either up-leveling your branding, or maybe don't know where to start, or feel a little bit overwhelmed, or just understand that your branding needs some type of tweaking so that it feels really good for you. I also think it's just a really nice tool to help you feel confident showing up in your work. And I think there are several right ways to do things. So I don't think that you have to have like the logo set up perfectly, or your color palette has to stay the same forever, or, you know, you have to just like land on these like rigid assets and ideas in order to be successful. I like to help people build brands that can flex and be fluid with them and ebb and flow as you grow. So if you have any questions, I have a bunch of pre-asked questions. So I'll start with folks that are here and answer those questions. But if you have any questions or comments or anything, I have my chat open so I can watch, and yeah, happy to answer whatever. So, all right, let's dive in. Emily, who is here, Emily Brown, the question that you shared was, what brand aesthetic basics can we establish so that we can still flow the aesthetics of the changing seasons, different archetypes we want to embody, etc. So I'm actually gonna, since I have this typed out, I'm gonna drop it in the chat so you can all look at that. So, and Emily, if you want to pop on, you know, just jump in with your voice. We can have a dialogue back and forth. Or I can just share this and you just let me know how it lands in the chat. But basically, what I would suggest is that you land on a few things that you carry through. So I know I just said all this stuff about, you know, you don't have to be super rigid, and I still mean that, but I do think that if you land on a few things that you use over and over and over again, it helps to create that consistency. So maybe it's that you have, you know, 2 fonts that you stick with. And so once you've landed on 2 fonts, you use them in similar ways, or you build off of, or, you know, create ways to work with them. But every time you're posting something, or, you know, I know that you have a Flowdesk email set up. So you would, you know, if you're building something in Canva and on your website, on Squarespace or something, and then you've got Flowdesk in your email, you know that you sometimes can't use the same fonts across all places because you either can't upload them yourself, or that, you know, that software doesn't actually have it. And so what I do is try to find fonts that look very similar. There's a billion fonts out there, but essentially you'd want to pick 1 or 2 fonts. I like to work with 2. I like to work with a serif and a sans serif. So a serif font is the kind that have the little feet on it, and the sans serif doesn't have feet. So if you're actually looking at the screen here, the font that is being used, I think across all of Zoom, is considered a sans serif. So there's no extra little feet. Basically, you can pair those 2 fonts together and work with them throughout your throughout all of your material. And just think about just using those fonts in similar ways. So your headers of something would be in, you know, a larger, bolder serif font, for example, and then all of the body copy could be in a sans serif. And that's like a really subtle way, if you're using it across all your devices, or not devices, but you know, using it across all your channels similarly, then that starts to bring an element of cohesion without really like locking you into something. The other thought is obviously color palette. Color is huge. And I like to suggest for folks who who feel really inspired by a lot of things, or maybe have shiny object syndrome. And I'm in that bucket as well as a designer, especially. I do a lot of brands for a lot of people, and, you know, I always want to rebrand myself. But I suggest that you pick a palette that has like warm colors and cool colors, so that you can choose to use them together. You can choose for certain seasons to lean more into the cool colors, or, you know, for certain seasons to lean more into the warm colors. On my Instagram, I just kind of like lean into the color palette that is feeling good for me in that moment. And I find that gives me a lot of breathing room and a lot of space. Some people feel more comfortable with a really limited palette, because color is going to be a big thing that immediately makes you stand out. And if you're using a super limited palette of like 3 colors, then it makes it really easy for you to like look the same across all your channels. So just know that, you know, as you're working with color, you just use it strategically. Let me know if that makes sense. Let's see, what were the other thoughts I had for this? Your logo, obviously, if you have a logo, to put it on things, use it the same way. If it's a multicolored logo, I'd recommend making sure that it looks really good in black and white, and sometimes just dropping it in on, you know, it doesn't have to be on everything, but it can sometimes be on a social post. It should definitely be in your email and on your website. And maybe if your logo is complex in some way, you can pull out elements from that logo. So say your logo, I think, Emily, I've seen yours before, that it has like a tree element. So maybe there's like, and I think that some of it kind of like swirls. So maybe you pull out this element of a swirl and then you use that as one asset in other places. So then you're not using the logo, but you're also, you're just using part of it. So it's almost like each piece that you put out into the world feels like it's part of a family, but it doesn't have to look exactly the same. I like to think of it as like, we want to make, it depends on what you're building out, but, if I'm just thinking about Instagram, because it's so visual, it's going to be the easiest place to point you to, but having your Instagram feed look like you have, look like each post is like a sibling of one another. They like just kind of all look like they relate in that way. But then if you build out a lead magnet that maybe is like, maybe it's like, I mean, it should obviously relate to what you're doing, but maybe it's like, maybe it's season specific, kind of like what this question is, then maybe that one can look more like a cousin and not necessarily like a sibling. So let me know if that's resonating with you, Emily. Other things you can think about are paying attention to the shape language. So of different assets and elements. An easy thing that I'll point out is that some people, I see will like in their emails use sometimes like a square call to action bar, and then sometimes they'll use a rounded bar. And I would just say, let's decide if you want to have sharp edges or if you want to have soft edges. And, kind of repeat that throughout the different areas of, whatever you're executing on. So, you can be super basic with it, but just making sure that some of those elements, are just being carried through across the board. So it doesn't all have to look exactly the same, but being able to, just like kind of use each one of those those little assets as like a lever or a tool that you can like dial this up, or I can dial this down. Okay, hop on here if that doesn't make any sense, or if you have more questions about it.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because what I was sitting here thinking is like, what do sibling posts like look like? But then you kind of answered that, I think, in incorporating the assets here and there. So it kind of like made more sense for me too.
Okay. Would showing you visuals help?
Yeah.
I can hop on. Yeah, let me, this is what this time is for. So I'll just hop onto Instagram and I'll share my screen here in a second. And
because
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, my Instagram looks like chaos. It does not look like siblings or family or any related relatives. So I'm definitely interested, and it's been really helpful how you've answered so far. So thank you for taking my question.
Of course. I'm glad you submitted it. And I think when we're getting started, it's like you don't know what you don't know until you ask, until you know. That didn't make any sense. All right, I'll start by. You're following me. You follow me pretty well. I'll just start with my page just because it'll be easy to show, because I think I do actually flex. I flex more than what I suggest for some people, just because I have more of a comfort level of being able to ebb and flow. Oh, somebody else is coming in. Good. I'm glad that these emails are working. So for example, when you go through here, obviously there's a through line of color that you're seeing, but there's a lot of different assets. Some of the assets that I use regularly is this little element here, which is just my graphic element of the circle, kind of like to represent transformation, basically, from this idea of feeling like you're empty to building together and then feeling whole. I also use an element of a wave. So you'll see that. This butterfly is used very sparingly, but it pops in and out in places. But what ties it together is that all of these, even though I'm using text in a little bit of a different way, they kind of look like, oh, you can tell that they're part of the same family because, well, especially this row, it's like similar color palette. All of the text is like used, it's all the same font that we're working with. And, using black, as like a key color. The only time I don't use black is when I'm over top of something that black would look too harsh on. So, but then I allow myself to kind of like ebb and flow a little bit with like a, leaning into a different color palette. That's not technically part of my palette, but it was part of my photo shoot. So like the greens can pop in here, but then I go back into what the main color palette is. So that's just like one way of it, kind of like really stretching. And let me just think, I'm sure as soon as I pop on here, somebody that would be like really, actually, Amanda's a good example. We've worked on her brand together. Amanda, initially, we stayed very consistent with her color palette. Like her key color, her main color is the dark green. And so that you'll see, especially earlier on, it's like every other post intentionally, because that is what made her feel comfortable, like building things out. So she started this way where it was like, okay, we're going to do this format where every other post is this dark green. And then I'm going to start bringing in some new colors. So then she started to open it up a little bit, playing with the peach. But you'll notice that her font is the same across everything. She does, toy with the idea of having words that go up and down, because her work, she feels, is very fluid. She talks a lot about, she works with like fashion and styling and your physical form, your physical body. And so thinking about physical body, it has like some curvy shape language. So she's like, incorporating those pieces, but then she also provides structure in some certain areas. So making sure that, she's always trying to keep that balance. But if she wants to go explore with another thing, she makes sure that she has enough of the other elements that tie back to the brand. Did that make sense?
It did. And those examples are great. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anyone else have anything to add about that or any questions about that? Because I'll definitely dig deeper. It's very easy when I have like something specific to respond to. Angela, yeah, hop on. And you, okay, there we go.
Hi. Oh,
Hey.
Sorry. I'm outside doing the horse chores and trying to multitask. Nice to meet you. I'm just wondering, so like, because I'm with the horses, I'm oriented, most of my Instagram and my social media is photos of my horses. So then I feel like whenever I go into actually think that's like a written copy, I feel like I don't know like the very photo heavy, rest of my feed.
What's your Instagram?
Equine elevation.
Okay, I think I heard you. It's breaking out a little bit. Oh yeah, okay. So I think what you're saying is you are photo heavy, but when it comes to utilizing text, you're not really sure how to integrate. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, exactly. So, so my intuition for equestrians, or like even when I want to sew the horse medicine leadership, it always feels like components of it are there, but then I'm not sure how to make it look as clean as I feel like I want it to, because I really still want the photos to be like the primary focus.
Yeah, the hero. Okay, so a couple of ways I would suggest for you to start working with this would be, one, be open to having like multi-slide images. So you could have one that is, which it seems, I'm not sure if I'm seeing that wrong. No. So like, for example, for this one, what you could do is you could have this photo with a huge block here that has all the information in the center. So it feels a little bit more clean. It's not broken up from the side, each side. And then you swipe and it's just this image of you. And you could also have it backward so that, you have, depending on how you want it to land on your feed, so that the primary image is the image of you. And then when people swipe, it's the same image of you with a block over top of it. So it still feels like there's a through line. And then you're explaining what is in this program, or what it says 2-day in-person training. And you can even have a third one that goes into more details about that. That's literally just the same format. That's one way that I would work with, like prioritizing or heroing your imagery. Another thing I suggest is if you just go into Canva, and Canva is, I'm making an assumption here, but if everybody is if you're not working in Canva, let me know what you're working in the chat. Canva, I really hope that they like have they build out a better way to organize things. But what I would suggest for you is literally looking through templates of Instagram posts of how Canva is suggesting to work with photos and text. So kind of like scrolling through and you mentioned the word clean. That's really all I have to go off of. But say you had like a list of other assets for your brand that felt resonant with you. And so then what I would do is just like, okay, what of these actually feels good to me? Let's just say it's this one. So I'm just going to open it up. And I would start with then customizing that template. I would literally just start by, I'm going to duplicate this really quick. I always duplicate it. So then you have the original to go back to, because these are templates because they're good design. I'm going to use quotes because obviously there's some stuff on there that's maybe not good design, or everyone has, design is in the eye of the beholder or whatever. So when I start to change things in the template, then sometimes it'll start looking really weird. And then I'll go back to the original and be like, oh, what was it about this that made it actually work? So the things I might notice are like, these colors are, not super contrasty. So if I'm up here using a contrasted color, maybe I want to try a color that's not super contrasty. So maybe I'll take, let's say it was this color, maybe I'll just take the transparency down a little bit. So then it like relates a little bit. So I would utilize Canva's templates to help you land on a rough template. Now, maybe all of this doesn't make sense for you. It's not super clean with all this crap around it and doesn't sound like that's something you want. I'm just making this up. But this is a way to still hero your image, and then drop in your font. So don't use the font that they are using in the template. So make sure if you have fonts, it looks like on yours, you're using a couple of the same fonts. You already have a sans serif and a serif. So drop in your fonts and your colors. And whoops, I'm going to go back here. And then start to see how it's working out. And then you would build out the next image. I'm just going to pretend like we're doing that that slide. The second image might, just be, and this is like super basic to show you, but then maybe that second image in the slide is that. Maybe the third one becomes, I think we're going to do the opposite here. So maybe the third one becomes, I'm just going to see how I want to do this. Could even be like that with all the text over top of like what's specifically included and how much it is. But then you're seeing that all three of these are part of one story. So I'm going to delete these and pretend like, not one story, but one post, if that makes sense. So let me know if that's resonating with you. Ashley, I'm so glad that you're liking this. Yay. So Angela, I'll wait to hear back. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I do have Canva. I am working way too hard.
Oh no. All I heard was you have Canva and you're working way too hard.
They have never even realized all that stuff was there.
Template wise?
Have the photo still be the name. Oh, shoot. I might be,
I know. I think your connection is weak. Yeah, shoot. Okay. Well, I think what I heard is that you didn't realize that those options, or there were options like that for you. But that's how I start with, I'm a designer. When I first learned about Canva, I was so pissed off because I work in Adobe Illustrator and I'm like, I make everything from scratch. And I was like, what the heck is this thing? And this is how people are making posts that are so beautiful and so quickly, so fast, and they're so prolific. And once I made my peace with Canva, I realized, yeah, it really is a tool to help you work smarter, not harder. So I also recommend stick to a few templates. You don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. And you literally could just, adjust, Adobe, sorry, I'm seeing in the chat, Adobe Spark, Post, and Unfold. Karen, I don't even know what either one of those things are. So I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious for you to share if you don't mind popping on there, what do you use for designing? Or yeah, Karen, do you mind sharing what those are?
No, I don't mind. Adobe Spark Post has been around, I've also used Canva since it was new, and Guy Kawasaki was trying to get people to sign up for it. So that was 2016 or 2014 or something like that.
Yeah.
I love using Adobe Spark Post because you can access your Adobe libraries if you do use Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever, or if you've licensed Adobe stock photos. Unsplash, Unfold is Squarespace's social post thing. And I think it's only paid, but they also have a brand kit you can use. And then, you know, it has your fonts and logos and things like that in it as well.
So
and
cool.
I use Canva because my assistant uses Canva. So like whatever's easiest for her. But yeah, I share all of those assets with her. And then sometimes she uses them as inspiration to use in Canva. And sometimes once you know a system though, it's difficult to switch between. So I like how Canva can have multiple pages in a design, and Adobe Spark Post and Unfold, Unfold also can have multiple pages, but Spark Post is like each one you have to duplicate if you want to make a that kind of thing. Anyway,
thank you.
They're both great tools. It's like whatever I have in my phone at the time, like whatever assets I need to access.
Yeah.
So
And you do
if
it
it's
on
stuck
your
in my
phone?
Adobe library, I do all of it on my phone.
Wow. Wow.
if I'm sitting at my computer, I'm working in CAD. I'm a pattern maker and grader. So I'm not doing like design work unless it's little technical illustrations, which isn't really design. So
kind of, just a different type. Yeah. A different type of design. Oh my gosh.
So
thank you.
These are great on the phone.
Yeah. That's so good to know. I'm like, I have no idea what the heck this is. I love this. Ashley uses Unfold as well. So cool. Okay. Well, the concept obviously of what I was sharing in Canva applies. I have also heard of Projector, but I haven't dove into Projector very much. Most of my clients use Canva, so it's just been an easy kind of transition to that. But amazing. Okay, Ashley or Angela, I see that your hand is raised. If you wanted to ask another question or hop back on, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the next question, which actually is yours. Okay, hang on a second. So you said you're looking for consistency across your social media content and your course, workbooks, ebooks, etc. Also tips on rebranding your website to better reflect you and your business. Okay, so I have this. Oh, you just didn't put the hand down. Amazing. Oh, Projector's web only. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So many freaking tools. Yeah. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that. So this is the question I just dropped into the chat. And Angela, I think, let me just actually see. I'm just going to click on your site. Well, I'll just say this. Consistency across would be kind of what I was saying for that first question that Emily asked. Make sure that you, I'm not sharing my screen. Make sure that you are just using some of the elements that you are choosing to use, even if it changes down the line. So right now, what I'm seeing with your elements are literally you're using rectangles, you're using like horizontal elements. I'm seeing that a lot in here. So that needs to be happening in all of your, in all of your places, staying with your color palette and, just utilizing the same fonts. I would recommend, again, like picking a couple of templates that you like from Canva and then using them as like a springboard for inspiration to kind of maybe up level the design a little bit. Oh, don't go to your website, you said. Can I please go to it really quick? Well, okay, I won't do it. Type in there if you really don't, if you are okay with me going there. And I can give you just a couple of thoughts, but I'm just going to step back and say, that is the one thing about branding. If you are feeling that way, like, oh no, don't go to my site, like, then you're probably ready for, something to change. Okay, good. You're giving me permission. I don't want to really make you uncomfortable or anything. Oh my gosh, this is like already you're okay. No, already I think this is great. Yeah, you're just, what I would do is start honestly with the very basic things. Start with trying to use the same fonts across like the same type of fonts across all the places. So if you actually really like this font more than, it looks like maybe this is all the same font, but more than this, serif font, then maybe you change it here or you change it there, if that makes sense. And, just overall, like, looks like you have some extra colors in here. So I would, adjust that. I didn't see any splashy elements on your other page, and you mentioned the word clean. So to me feels not very clean. So maybe choosing just like like just basic shapes, to kind of help create that cleanliness. Let's see, I find it hard to find a template I like in Squarespace. to design your site. Yeah, Squarespace can be a little bit tricky. I know with 7.1, there's more room to flex and stuff. What you can think about, and I'm sure you did that with probably with this because it seems like it's an image, is that you can, get creative about designing in Canva for Squarespace to kind of give you some of the image, same image, what am I trying to say? So that it can look the same, if that makes sense. And I know like if you don't have the option to do coding or anything like that, because you don't understand it, I'm not a coder myself, I work with a web developer. It can be tricky to try and like execute what you want. So if you are going to design Squarespace and if you are liking what's happening on your Instagram, or start where you're liking and try to like modify that across the board. What I try to do sometimes is I literally will like sketch something out on paper. Like, okay, I want to block here. I want text here. I want to block here. So that when I go into these more restrictive softwares like Squarespace, or when I'm in Wix or Canva, I have like my kind of like guiding light of what I want it to kind of like block out to be like a thumbnail sketch. And that helps me to hold on to that vision as I'm trying to like navigate the inner workings of a software that I might not be as familiar with. So that can be one way to kind of help you, kind of hold to what you are hoping to hold to in the beginning. Okay. Let's see what else you had asked. Let me just go back to that question. Yeah, and tips on rebranding your website to better reflect you and your business. The first thing that I suggest to anybody, and if anybody's interested, I have a four-part intro to branding or intuitive branding like workshop that goes through email. And just shoot me a note if you would want that. I can give you the link. And it's a series where I talk about, kind of where to start. And it's like creating your foundation. And really, I talk a lot about like allowing your brand, connecting with your brand and allowing it to tell you some things. So it's a little bit, connecting into your intuition and I like to think of my brand as like a partner to me and not necessarily, like that's something that I'm just driving. So I try to connect into it in that way. But one thing to start with is to list out attributes that express like how you want people to feel when they're working with you or buying your product or engaging with anything of yours. So just thinking about how your brand energy is out there in so many different ways. It's through your email, it's through the language that you use, it's obviously through the visuals with your Instagram or your website, but it's, all of those things kind of make up the energy of it. And we don't have to put too much pressure on one singular thing, but really if we set the intention of what we want people to feel in general, that can help guide you to just infuse that in everything that you do. And then it also can become an anchor point of decision-making. So if you're like looking at those Canva templates or any templates in general, Squarespace, and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. I really like this little wavy thing. And then you're like, wait, that doesn't actually make sense with my, I can go back to my list of attributes. Does this really make sense with the list? Or am I just drawn to it because it's something different and new? And that can help you to kind of guide your questions. So that is what I would suggest, is really like anchoring into, what your brand is sort of about. And I also teach people to even build out what I call a brand world, like a visual expression of what your brand is all about. And it's more like an aspirational, you're using inspiration images, not necessarily your own, brand images that you've created, but it kind of becomes this like a guidepost. And actually I can show you one really quick. I talk about this in that course, but that like little mini series email thing, but I'll show you one really quick that can give you just a little essence of what I'm talking about. I literally feel like this is like opening up my purse to let you see how unorganized I am. It makes me crazy how Canva is. So just bear with me here. Oh yeah. So I just did someone's like a sales page for somebody. This was her brand world that we developed. Here we go. So list of attributes. We've got her pillars. We've got inspiration for her, some phrases and concepts that are important to her business. And then this is what the world looks like. It gives you this like visual look, tone, and feel. And we've got a color palette here, and what you're getting from this is like the energy of, life. I mean, I don't have to like get into all of the details, but there's like some depth to it. There's some darkness to it. There's this like mix of, kind of like high fashion and like sort of sexiness, along with like beautiful ways to show, health. I mean, she's just like an incredible practitioner and does really beautiful things for people in the world. But she's really inspired by like spirals and energy, and how do we show energy in spirals in ways that are not cheesy, so just trying to find some images that can help indicate that kind of thing. Oh yeah, I'm glad that this is resonating so far. So, then we pull out like font direction, how things can start to look. This was all kind of early stages of some stuff, but if we keep going, oh, that's all we had for that. So that's just like extra pages for more inspiration. But then if you go into here, you can see how, I'm just going to walk through. This is like one story of hers and how that kind of was a springboard to help us build out a story that she could use that feels a little bit more, depth filled than what she had before, but still relates to that brand world. And then, so this is like leaning into that purple story. And then this one is leaning into more of the green story, but they all have, most of what she has right now is in that purple space. And this is a brand new program that she really wanted to stand out. And this is a group program. So it was like, okay, how do we make this look different, but also feel like it's part of the same, brand. So it's like choosing another image that has just like the energy that we're looking for. And what we did was just like really, really zoom in on one part of it. And then we use this image in other places, the full image. So then it kind of like, again, it's sort of like those cousins, or maybe these are a little bit closer to siblings, but, in that family, so that you're like, talking to each other, but you're not like recreating the wheel each time. This was actually not the final, but you're getting the gist of it, of how we started blowing some of this stuff out. Okay, let me go to the next question. Yay, I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad this is helpful. All right, so I had a question from a Sophia who is not here, but this will hopefully, if this is something, similar for, maybe this is touching on something that you have all thought about before. And actually, Karen, I know that this is something that you do, so I'd be curious to see what you would have to say about this as well. So I got the question, how to reach out to similar creators across industries about collaborations. And my suggestion is to put together, I'm calling it a pitch deck, but put together like a small presentation. It could just be a few slides that you can, or like a little package that you can share with them. I would obviously connect with them on Instagram, or however you're connecting with them, through email, if you can get their email. And if you already know creators that would want to partner with you, so if you've already done some partnerships before, then I would share that with, I'm just guessing because Sophia's not here for me to ask this question, but I'm guessing that you want to reach out to creators that maybe you don't know, or, have a different audience or something. So maybe you haven't introduced each other, been introduced to each other before. So really just like simply making an introduction, saying what you're interested in doing, asking, like inviting them, asking if that's something that they'd be interested in, and really highlighting and heroing how this would benefit them and their community. Because that's the whole point, right? Is to make sure that, it's a win-win for everybody. But I think it's super helpful to be like, and I've done this before, or, and here are the ideas. I just received an email from somebody who I love, and she was like, hey, I'm actually really like interested in getting on to people's like podcasts or in their groups. And I have a Facebook group. And so she was like, would you ever want to like chat with me? These are the things that I'm talking about right now. And it was like such a dream for me to just get that in my inbox, because then I don't have to go find somebody, and I already know her and I already think that she's cool. So it was like, dope, we can like collaborate on something. So really giving that person that you want to collaborate with ideas, like making it as easy as possible for them to just know yes or no, this makes sense. And maybe not being worried about any type of rejection, because the no is probably because it doesn't make sense for both of you. And yeah, just really just trying to reach out. I was going to ask what Sophia's human design was, just to like go into that a little bit, but we cannot ask that. But yeah, with that, Karen, I'd be curious if you have any thoughts. I know I'm putting you on the spot, so you can also say, no, I don't have any thoughts, but I know you collaborate with a lot of people. So I was just curious if you have suggestions for anyone that's looking to do that.
Well, I made my word of the year collaborate, and I announced it in the beginning of the year. And I belong to a couple different groups, and I invited the projectors. I mean, like I didn't say, hey, projectors, but I did say, I'm inviting you if you'd like, and then is this you? And yeah. And so I've done a couple, oh my gosh, my dog. I've done a couple really fun collaborations with people I actually would never have imagined. Like, I make clothes and teach sewing and make sewing patterns. So like, how would I collaborate with a Chinese medicine practitioner? Well, she figured it out and reached out to me, and we did a winter warmth workshop together and made something by hand. So all of that came together in that beautiful way. And then we did a summer like block party kind of thing together, where she invited a lot of different people to collaborate because her experience with me was so good. And so I was part of that as well. And yeah, it's been just practicing, like, even if it's not something, like 2 separate things coming together to make something even better is like real magic. And so if you have an idea that might seem weird, but who cares? Like, we're all super weird. So
True.
Find people who you think you'd like to work with and see if there's something that you can alchemize together.
Yeah. I love the just putting the invitation out there too, and just being like, this is something I'm doing this year. So yeah, I'm inviting you. And if you want to be part of it.
And I'm informing you if you're a manifestor. I'm a manifesting generator, so I can do all those things, but I also have to, like, okay, I opened the gates here. I opened the portal. If anyone's going to step through, then I can respond.
Yeah.
So,
so cool. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. I appreciate you sharing that perspective and letting me just pull you on the spot here.
No problem.
So cool. All right. Well, the last question I had that was pre-asked was asking for, marketing strategy advice for my photography brand, but I don't have a link to your brand. So I cannot answer that live today, but curious if anyone in the chat has anything, if any, not in the chat, you can just unmute yourself. We have like 12 more minutes. I'm happy to look at anything, answer any questions that come to mind. Raise your hand or just unmute. Let me know.
I have a question now.
Yeah.
That I answered one. Something I guess my eyes were opened when I had my website designed a couple of years ago, and there was like 2 colors on there that I totally hated. And so I never went there. I never used it. And then, and it also didn't have any photos, and I don't have time to like get photos taken, and all of that. So I worked with somebody who like helped me turn it into, like, not change the design, but just tweak it a little bit so that it became organized in a way that I started to love. And like, now I'm even adding more elements to it and organizing it differently because I'm ready to launch some different services and put them into different categories, and still struggle with photos. Like, my daughter can take some beautiful photos that are kind of the mood I want. And I can take like a couple photos, but I have a hard time, even though now I'm open to using stock photos, like finding where's a good place to find them that can match a mood. Like in Photoshop, you can click on something and be like, match this. So great. They can match the saturation or whatever it is, but
the eyedropper tool kind of.
It's a lot of work though. I don't want to always be in Photoshop. And like I said, if I have to do it on my computer, I'm probably not going to do it. So that's probably why Flowdesk is so hard for me too, because there's no app.
I know. I'm like shocked that you can do stuff on your phone. It's like it blows my mind. But
I do everything on my phone, Notion, everything. So, but anyway, I would love to know like where you recommend looking for photos, and if there's a way to like search by mood. Or what you might look for to be consistent. My assistant has been putting like a color overlay over things, but that doesn't always give it a rich experience.
Yeah, especially if that's not your, I'm just guessing, but especially if you are someone that is here, like being a manifesting generator, expressing life like boldly. I see like in your picture here, it's like you have pink hair. So I don't see you as being somebody who's like, but in general, like you're not like trying to show a muted, situation here.
Well, that's funny because I actually do like pictures that are I guess like maybe a little cozy and nurturing and not as loud as my hair is in that picture from like a long time ago.
Yeah. No, I get that. Okay, let me think about this. Can I go to your website just to look at it?
Yeah, it's of course, like everybody else, is totally still under construction in the middle of being rearranged, but it's my name, KarenLepage.me.
Okay, I'm going to share this. I will also just say my website's in the middle of getting it done too. So I do something called a brand VIP day for my clients, and I'm like literally having to do one for myself because I'm really behind too. So it's just how it is. Okay, this is so sweet. Okay, all right, I just wanted to take a quick look, and as I'm scrolling, this looks awesome. I just want to say, so far, I'm just going to go just take a little peek and see where I'm seeing imagery. So not a lot here.
No, not on that page.
Might have been, oh, okay, cool.
So those are the kind of images I like. Some are stock images, some
Yeah.
are photos I've taken, but it's like real or professional photos like that one of my friend there in the dress, I mean.
Sure.
But it's like it feels very hard to find photos that,
Well, especially some of
All
the
right.
stuff feels really specific for you, like
yeah.
because of the nature of your work. It's like, well, I need to show these like assets and elements. What I would recommend, and I know you don't have time, put it on your list for 2022, maybe.
It is spring of 2022.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would recommend definitely building out a photo shoot, and connecting with a photographer that you are excited by, especially being a manifesting generator. Like pick somebody you're excited by. And I always suggest for when you're prepping for a photo shoot to like create a look, tone, and feel, like create a mood board for your photo shoot, list out all of the additional, like all the B-roll, all of the additional elements. Like for you, you're going to have tons of tools, pattern making, paper, like the rulers, like all of your stuff, and have all of that listed. Like just think about gathering all of the things that you work with, and make sure that that's written down somewhere for this photographer, as well as your shots that you will have done of you. Like use Pinterest for good, create mini mood boards of like the different types of poses you want to see yourself in, or like, I want, we need some that are like face on, but I also like the energy of this. And then you have a singular board that's really just about the mood. So I know I'm like giving you a bunch of information about like specifics, but we want to communicate what that mood would be. So you're talking about like pulling the images that you have that you like the coloration of, essentially, and choosing a photographer that definitely like does that kind of thing. So, but until then, the thing there's a couple of things I would suggest. There are people, so Social Square Photography, there are different businesses where they are selling, like, it's not the standard. So Unsplash is the place that I normally go. So I'm just going to go to, I heard you say that word. So I know you're familiar with Unsplash, but just for folks who maybe aren't, this is a great place to go.
Yeah, that's where I found most of the ones that I like the most.
Yeah.
I've been blowing $30 a month on Adobe stock and I hardly ever use it. So
I hate it. Yeah. But they have like one photo that you're
I know
like, that's
that
it.
you would normally have to pay like $300 for, but
No.
I did because I have 10 months of $30 membership.
Yeah. So there are other companies that are, and I don't know a ton of them, but this is one where they are like, they have a bunch of images that are a certain type of vibe. So maybe not your vibe, but there's another one that I feel like you would really like, but it's not popping into my head right now. I'm just going to make a note of it. And if I remember it, if it pops into my mind, I will be sure to reach out to you and give it to you. I think it's like Slow Escape or something. I don't know, something like that.
Oh, thank you. I loved the photo shoot I saw you were part of with Amanda. That's actually how I heard about you. And then I saw Emily post about coming to this today. So I was like, oh, 2 people I adore? Yes. I need to know this Beth person.
Oh, I'm so glad. No,
Thank you for answering this.
Of course. No, Amanda and I sat down, we did exactly what I'm saying about the photo shoot. We literally had like a brand session around what do you want your photo shoot to look like? How do you ideate for this? For her, it was like, how do we communicate? It makes me want to just open up all of her images. She hasn't used them quite yet, but
well, I love that the photo shoot itself became brand elements for her.
that was like the whole point, right? Like, is that, and it all like
the actual
formed-
behind the scenes.
Yes.
It wasn't even, it was so beautiful.
Yes, it was. Yeah. For those of you, well, I'll just say, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, because we're talking about someone specific, I will be posting about it later, but it's this photo shoot that Karen's referencing that we just like, prepared. We did a lot of preparing, created a mood board for it, pulled in some models. I highly recommend having someone, at least one other person with you at your photo shoot, because it helps you to relax. Like I was there to like making Amanda laugh in the background, like that kind of thing. So it really helps, really helps to loosen the mood a little bit and let you become your like authentic self. And then you also have someone that can help hold the vision for you. So the photographer was amazing. She's doing her job. But I was there to be like, hey, like, can we turn Amanda a little bit this way? Or her bangs like are right in front of her face. Like, let's move that a little bit. Cause the photographer is super focused sometimes on, what she needs to be focused on. So anyway, I'm going down like a whole rabbit hole here. I use Unsplash. I've heard of other places like Social Squares. So that's one place that you can, if you're liking the vibe of their photos, it might be worth it to subscribe to them versus Adobe stock. But I'll go into Unsplash really quick and just show you what I've started doing for different clients. So you can start creating collections, and let me just go to, maybe I have one for Amanda. We'll just like do a whole theme. Maybe I don't. I guess I don't. So go to Dahlia, the one that I showed you her work before. And as you start creating a collection, it's interesting. She works with like brain health. So it was like, oh, maybe like walnuts kind of remind you of brains. She could use this image and, darken it a little bit so then it fits into the overall mood. She can use parts of this image. So encouraging you to like think beyond what the full image is, but how can you like use and scale parts of the image?
I always forget I can crop things.
Can crop things. Yeah. It's like
probably why I take so much time taking photos, because I forget that I can.
And
cut
using
them out.
like,
I don't have to like clean the whole studio to take one photo on a table.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I even want to go back to where are we here? We were here, I think. Yeah. Like even if you say like whatever photo energy that you're liking, say you landed on this image here on the right, you could use it as its full image. You could also, well, I can't cover it with my hand. I was about to do that. You can also imagine just cropping it right here. So then just this top part shows. And even though it doesn't like make sense, it becomes a texture for you that you could layer in text on top of, but it still relates to this image and it gives you that energy. So kind of like stretching.
I do own that image. That's beautiful. That's from a book I worked on. So
seriously, your story and everything that you do like sounds really, really incredible. That's a conversation for another time, but I'm like, when I saw that you signed up, I was like, I feel like I have like a famous person that's signing up for this today. Not gonna lie. But like, even like this image, you could think about just using half of it and blowing it, blowing it, and then it gets to stretch into more places, that kind of thing. So until you have your shot, trying to find more like this. Yeah. Karen equals goal, #goals for sure. And so until you have your, ability to do your own shoot, those are some ideas. The other thing I would suggest is, how people, since you have Photoshop, a lot of people sell presets, and presets are really just like a set of, how do I want to explain it? Like a function that you can add.
I've only seen them in Lightroom. I didn't know I don't want to learn yet another piece of software. So are there presets for Photoshop too?
I haven't used them, but I was just thinking that you could buy presets for Photoshop. I'm pretty sure you can, but maybe I'm saying that wrong.
Just like I collect URLs and fonts. I should probably use them.
I totally get that. I'm not going to go super deep in that because I would take a minute to like kind of, I would need to learn that, but I would be curious for the folks that are selling the presets, if you're like, because even on Creative Market, I think they sell them.
Oh yeah. I forgot that they were still in business, because I used them before. And for that book, actually, some beautiful fonts that I found there.
Awesome fonts.
And I just forgot about them.
They have great photos.
Go
so
back.
Go back to here. You can also build out like the same idea of like, you can have likes, but you can also do collections, which I just do for like different clients and stuff. But it's super helpful to be like, oh, cool. Like I can go back to this thing. Or I see this here and I want to like, if you are partnering with somebody in brand, you could be like, I want you to mimic something that's like this, or this is the energy that I'm looking for. So just remembering that you can use inspiration, like to help push you forward But I would guess, sorry, back to the presets thing is whoever is selling them, asking them how, like, do you have an easy guide of how to do this? Because I don't have time to learn it. Because I don't have time to learn that right now either. But yeah, did that help a little bit? Give you
A lot.
Thank
you.
Okay.
Thank you so
You're
much.
so welcome. Thanks for coming.
It's my pleasure. I'm delighted. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, I want to do these often. It's like super.
You're so good at it.
It's really
Thank you.
fun.
I'll be back.
Yay. Yeah, and you can bring like specific stuff too. Like, hey, I worked on this. Can you tell me what you think? What's the other thing I was going to say? Well, yeah, I want to be sensitive to people's time, but if anyone else has a question, I'm happy to stick on for another like 5 to 10 minutes. I know I got started a little bit late. So just raise your hand or unmute. Ashley.
I don't necessarily have a question, but I just had to share how exciting this is for me and just like how energized, inspired I am. And I love hearing you say that you want to do more of these, because I'm like, where can I sign up? I'll come back regularly just to like be in this creative vibe with you all. And just everything you shared has been so helpful. It's like my brain's popping off right now.
Yay.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that. And yeah, no, it is something I plan to do regularly. I'm looking for, I had a time in November that I had to change. So I'm looking for a daytime probably in November, but with the same link, there's already a time in December that you can book. If you aren't signed up yet for the brand channel, which is it's the free newsletter that I am just like building out, brand tips and tricks. I'm just going to be whatever comes to mind that I want to share, what I'm noticing a lot with clients that I'm working with or something like that. I'll be educating around. And so make sure you're on that and you'll always know when the next one is coming. Oh, thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. I freaking love Flowdesk. So I'll probably be talking about that very soon because they're about to leave their beta and I think everybody should be on Flowdesk. So I'll probably be talking about that soon, but yes. Yeah, if there's nothing else, I hope you all enjoy your full moon. I'm like honored that you decided to spend a full moon with me. There's obviously still time to go enjoy it. And yeah, just reach out if you have any other additional questions. We can add it to the next one, or I can just try to help you on the side. All right. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.